So today in Crypto Analysis, just as usual, we're gonna take a look at Bitcoin's price action during last week and what can we see for the near future. There's actually a very big fight between bulls and bears. I'm also gonna talk about BitMex. What happened with BitMex during last week? We're gonna analyze the scenario and we're gonna talk about the importance of liquidity in shorts and longs. Also, very important news that happened during last week is that the SEC rejected 9 ETFs. But more surprising news is that they're actually reviewing those 9 ETFs applications. And finally, I'm gonna talk about altcoins, especially Nano, because we've seen surprising price action. But very interestingly, other altcoins are presenting similar behavior in their price action. So could this mean that we're actually gonna go up? If you're curious about this, just chill and keep watching. Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and this is your host, the Chick Entrepreneur. So let's head into this week's price action. We've seen that over last week we've been trading under this kind of area, and we've mentioned these important resistance lines, which is the 6.8k, the 6.5k, the 6.25k, the 6k, and finally our lower limit is the 5.8k. So we've seen the price going around this area. But something very interestingly is that over the past few days, we've actually had this price action. And this is very important because this was due to something that happened with BitMex. And I'm gonna be talking about that later in the video. But let's head into the indicators. One of the things that we've been discussed before in this channel is these EMAs. And especially that 20 EMA, which is this purple line, quite a strong indicative of where the price might be going. But now, before we jump into conclusions here, we've seen that it might have broken this line and it retested this line over here. But one of the problems with this is that we don't have the volume. So if we take a look at the volume down here, we don't have enough volume to back that up. And whenever you're looking for a breakout, you also want some volume in it in order to confirm that's a correct move. And this is very interesting because we've seen something similar in the past. For instance, in here, we actually broke out from this level or from this line, but we didn't have enough volume. We have a barely average, as we can see down here. And therefore, even though we actually pushed up to 6.8k before, the price eventually failed, and there was another dump, which ended up in this head and shoulders formation. So now I'm seeing something very similar to what we already seen, and this is that we're actually not being backed up by volume. And I'm not saying that we cannot go and break up. Actually, that would be quite bullish because we have this line, which is the past line, the past bearish line, which was a very important indicator, and we broke it in here and we actually went even higher. But because of the news and something that we've explained in last week's videos, it actually went back down. But this makes me think about what are the possibilities now, because since we are not backed up by this volume, I think it's really possible for the price to go down. Also, I would like to talk about this pennant that's forming, and also how all these lines, and something we've discussed is the path of least resistance. It seems that there's too many resistances over to the upside, which is what I believe, and I've been talking again in the last video, is that my prediction is that this still will go down, possibly retesting the 6k, or that's at least what I'm hoping for, and then actually find enough momentum to break. And this would be actually something good, because at this point it would be actually easier to break from this point and then gain enough momentum to break with a 6.8 level and consequently go up, rather than trying to break everything all at once, including the 50 EMA over here. So now let's go to the 1 hourly chart, because we've seen some very interesting price action. So you've seen that pennant up there, well, in the other chart, but here I've highlighted this kind of triangle that's forming, which is it's basically the lower the bearish trend line that we've spoke about, with a possibly a small uptrend. And this is something that I want to highlight because in the past we've seen, if we go back to the last price action here before the head and shoulders, we've seen small kind of uptrends. For instance, if we go around here, we've seen this uptrend which could have indicated that we're actually gonna break out from here, but actually the price fell down very harshly. And this was not the only scenario. We also have over here that the price actually was sustained over an uptrend but subsequently fell down. So this has passed a lot of times before, and again, that's a possible indication that it might happen again. And the reason is that we have not really tested this 5.8 and 6k level enough, in my opinion. We've only tested once, bounced up, went through this 5.8 and went back up, and we have not yet seen another test. And something that has happened with Bitcoin lately is that whenever we start testing these higher grounds, we go back down. And again, we can go at the daily chart, going back through this to these head and shoulders, and we've seen that the normal price action was between the 6.5 and the 6k, but whenever we started trading up here in the between the 6.8 and the 6.5, we subsequently went down, and it happened once and it happens twice. And here it's actually the first time that we're trading at this level, and this is one of the reasons that I think that we are still going down. Also, I would like to talk about other set of indicators. So if we look at the stochastics, we're also seeing that the stochastics are very high right now and are probably gonna be crossing. And even though the stochastics are not the best indicator to tell whether the price is going down, it tells us that possibly the bullish momentum is gone. And that's something that we need to take into consideration. But I would really not rely on it too much, as we've seen that even though it has bottomed out over here, it can bottom out for some days and still continue going down, or even here where you could have argued that the bullish momentum was over, it still pushed up. But anyway, just to finish with the analysis, we've seen some interesting price action during the last couple hours, and we've seen that the price has tried to actually go over this triangle over here, and even in the last hours it was very interesting because a lot of people were expecting this to possibly break out. But again, one of the main issues is that we're not really backed up by the volume over here, and if we want to see this breakout, we would actually need to wait for the end of the candle, end of the hourly candle, to see whether it breaks out and then confirm with the volume to see if it's not a fake out. So the second thing that I want to talk about is about BitMex. So what happened? We saw that last week there was a scheduled maintenance for the BitMex platform, just exactly at 1 UTC in here, and we can see that the price went just skyrocketed. And there's a lot of reasons to think that this was manipulation. And something that I've done is hearing the different sources, hearing different people's opinions to actually formulate my own here. And something that I've seen, for instance, in Sonny Decrease videos, is that he's right in some respect when he's saying that the price can't be manipulated from BitMex, because as we know, BitMex is actually a futures derivative. You know, we're not trading actual Bitcoin in there. When you're longing with the leverage or where you're shorting, you're really kind of betting in there, because the price action, if you buy 100 BTC in there, it's not really gonna affect the price outside. And that's something which is true, and I do agree with it. However, it's very interesting because the price action was very different. If we go through the BitMex actual price, we can see that here the top that we've reached is around 7.1, almost 7.1k, and this was very different from the actual price, because the maximum that we've seen in the overall market was around 6.9k. So even though you cannot go into BitMex and manipulate the price for Bitcoin to go up, you can still manipulate the price in order to liquefy all the shorts, and that's something that we've seen over here, that we saw a small short squeeze, if you can call that a short squeeze, but we've seen some shorts getting liquidated, and I think that's the important thing, because the thing here is that if we actually analyze, and something that I've talked about before in the videos, is the importance of liquidity. So when you're a broker of this kind, you don't really want all the table go through only one side, because you want to equilibrate buyers and sellers in order to profit, because again, you're profiting from the volume, but you will always need buyers. You know, if most of the people are selling, you are gonna need buyers, and if most of the people are buying, you're gonna need sellers. Those are very, very important things, and that's one of the reasons that they might want to manipulate this in order to diminish or scare the overwhelming side, which is the shorts right now. Well, in any case, I just wanted to point out that difference in price, because it's something that we really need to consider. And again, BitMex is not the worst platform, and as any other derivative and leverage platform, whenever there is an overwhelming side of this balance, whenever a lot of people are buying or selling, they usually get into this cluster and prevent people from actually buying, and they stop trading for a while. And this is one of the reasons that I do not recommend to manually trading on these platforms. I mean, what I've been doing is to actually put all the pending orders, and I have not had any problems with that. Well, anyways, let's head to the very important news that happened during last week. First of all, we were talking about these potential ETFs and the decision from the SEC to come out during this period. This was actually, the deadline was actually the 23rd of August. And we've seen from the news that actually the SEC rejected 9 of the Bitcoin ETF applications. And we talk about ProShares, Direction, and Granite Shares, and they were all rejected. And this was very important news, even though that we knew that shouldn't affect the price. Actually, I was surprised, because the price action wasn't really affected that much. We were still trading at these kind of levels. We didn't really go way back down and break through the 6.25k and go down. So I think people actually took this as neutral news. But something that was very surprising is that the SEC went and said that they are going to review the rejections of the 9 Bitcoin ETF applications. And this was more surprising, because we all knew that they were going to reject them. But now that they're going to review them again after they rejected them, could potentially mean that something is going on. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is about altcoins, and the car pointed out today, and I didn't expect this. Nano actually rallied all the way, and we've seen that from the lowest point, it actually went up around 300%, almost triple. And I wanted to bring these two indicators, because the price action from altcoins is really different from your normal assets. I think they're still not mature enough to actually use proper technical analysis. So something that I put is that this 20 EMA indicator, because of the maturity of the market. And we've seen that it has been, you know, as usual, a rather good indicator to see where there is a resistance. For instance, we've seen on this here going down, and then retesting this purple line and still going down. And the thing that I want to discuss is that this behavior of this steep downtrend is very similar to other altcoins. And for instance, here we saw that it actually broke in here, and then it started gaining momentum, and actually broke this 20 EMA with enough volume, and therefore it went back up after. Like it wanted to retest this 20 EMA and went back up. NEO, for instance, same similar price action. It has been going down. We have this trend line stepping down, and we have the 20 EMA pushing it down. And again, my prediction is that once we break this 20 EMA up and this trend line, we are gonna be seeing this altcoins rally. Let's take another example. And we have Dash over here, similar price action where this trend line have pushed the price down, and this 20 EMA does not allow the price to actually go up. And we can potentially see a rebound in here and potential breakout. And finally, let's take a NEM, for instance. Again, similar price action. We've seen this downtrend and this 20 EMA actually supporting. We're very close to it. I'm not quite sure if we're already over and we're gonna start looking at gains, but clearly we're on a very important point, another make or break point. And again, just to finalize this video, my predictions or what I am expecting to happen is for this to actually fail, go back down, and then actually grab strong momentum, because there's a lot of buying power around these 6K levels. Like the demand for Bitcoin is a lot in comparison to the people who are selling it. But I still think that the price needs to go down, and then that's where people are gonna buy and we're actually gonna go up. So anyways guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, and only if you did, mind subscribing, maybe follow us in our other social media. And just before I go, I would like to remind you all, stay smart, stay bold, but most important of all, stay cheeky. Take care.